welcome back to the Mind Body Mushroom, the podcast where we dive into holistic health, personal growth, and the mindset shifts that fuel high performance. I'm your host, Jordan Ryan, and as always, this episode is brought to you by Win and See Coffee, the world's best tasting adaptogenic coffee. Today, my guest is Guy McDermott, the founder of NextPeak.org, where he helps people break through barriers, find clarity, and align their lives with their highest purpose. With a background in leadership coaching and personal development, he specializes in guiding high achievers towards deeper fulfillment, helping them navigate life's transitions and intention and resilience. In this episode, we're going to explore Guy's journey, his insights on overcoming obstacles, and the powerful mindset shifts that can help anyone unlock their full potential. Whether you're looking for practical strategies to level up or a fresh perspective on personal growth, this conversation is one you won't want to miss. Guy, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, Jordan. Thanks for having me. And I'm curious of where that guy is that you just introduced. I know he's somewhere around here, but no, I appreciate that. Everyone has their own story, their own journey, right? And we're all on a healing journey, and we're all on this path of something where some of us are not even aware that we're on a path of healing. And mine really started when in 2020 when I was on the edge of my bed and I almost took my own life. And if it wasn't for a really close friend of mine, a SEAL that took his own life previous to that 3 years, like where he like literally stepped into the room, almost a mystical experience of sorts,
Wow.
and said, "Do you get it now?" Because when he took his own life, I just had so much resentment. Like here, this guy was the most mentally tough guy I had ever met in my life. Right? There's nothing that he couldn't do.
Right.
But he couldn't keep himself alive. Right. And I mean, again, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here today. And you know, I'm fueled by this, right? I really am fueled by this idea that he saved my life, right? He came in right when I needed it the most.
Wow.
And
It was like a
so,
mystical experience. You
yeah,
kind of feel like it was there was like some
definitely
intervention.
a total intervention.
Wow.
And now it's like rocket fuel for me, right? From that day forward, I never looked back, right? I was like now, like where my life is today versus where it was before all this, right? It's night and day difference. Like it's absolutely crazy to me that I had thoughts of suicide.
Right. Now that's incredible, dude. And how much of that do you think was physiological, like traumatic brain injury, or versus childhood trauma versus trauma from the military? Is it
I
even possible to kind of slice that up, put it in a
I
bucket?
think I think everyone's different. I can
Right.
now have that 30,000-foot view.
Right.
And for me in my journey, again, everyone's journey is a little bit different. It was childhood trauma.
Hmm.
You know, and it was head injuries. I had head injuries as a kid. I was on,
Yeah.
in the 80s and 70s, riding my BMX bike, doing these big jumps, and never had a helmet on. I knocked myself unconscious multiple times. Right? You know, I was a thrill seeker. I was an
Yeah.
adrenaline junkie. Right? So,
Right.
and then in the teams, blast injuries after
Yeah.
blast injury. But I think what I've learned in this in my own journey is that I believe that true trauma, PTS, post traumatic stress, right, comes from the childhood wounds, right?
Dude, for sure.
And then as an adult, how do I deal with the similar traumas that I continue to see over and over again that I saw as a kid, right?
Mm.
I don't really know how to deal with them, right? I'm emotionally stuck, right, as probably a little boy. I'm a grown man in a little boy's body because I just can't break through. And I act out, right, emotionally like a little kid when I'm
Right.
faced with this trauma. So I just, instead of dealing with it, I'm just going to pack it away. I'm going to compartmentalize it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, no, you're just not processing it.
Right.
You're not actually being, sometimes I wasn't even aware that I was acting out or that I was experiencing trauma. So
Right.
I think there's also this sense of normalizing it.
Mm. That's an insight that I'm so glad to hear you speak about, because I'm starting to identify a pattern. If you talk to most civilians and kind of like unpack their perception of what PTS is,
Yeah.
especially, operator syndrome,
Right.
guys that are going overseas and, kicking indoors and doing this thing. And the association is, oh, it's because you saw
Right.
horrors of war and stuff like that. And I've found that almost more consistently, that's not it, dude. It's
Yeah.
exactly what you said.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
it's starts
those are all
earlier.
moral injuries,
Right.
right? When I have to take another person's life,
Right.
now I'm experiencing, or when I see a life being lost in front of me, there's a complexity there. Yeah, it is trauma, but there's also moral injury. I
Right.
didn't do enough. What I didn't do my job, or like I'm, my own worst critic, right? I think we all
Hmm.
are, right?
Yeah.
But I think
100%.
there's another thread to this that's really important to understand. Is I wasn't feeling, right? I learned as a little boy, I say at 5 years old, right? When I was seeing this trauma getting passed down to me, right? When I saw this trauma being passed down, I learned not to feel. I didn't want to feel that. So now I armored myself up and I developed a very sharp sword, right?
Right.
And then I say, it's like, listen, I made it through Hell Week, right? Because I wasn't feeling. I wasn't feeling. And why was that important? Because I wasn't going to feel sorry for myself.
Hmm.
And the
Yeah.
minute you have any grain of like, oh, it's cold or I'm uncomfortable or whatever, right? Then, and I'm like, I'm only at the beginning of this. Like how, like I got a long way to go, right? And then that seed of doubt, right? And so for me, it's like, well, I'm not going to feel. I learned not to feel, but there's a problem. It's great to go overseas and to do the things that we're asked to do,
Hmm.
right? Because if I was feeling like I feel now, I wouldn't have been able to have
Yeah.
done the things that I did.
Right.
So
Right.
great, like that's
That's
like there's a
interesting.
component of that we kind of need, right? It's a
Yeah.
protective measure, and it allows you to do your job at the fullest. So you're not second guessing yourself, right?
Right.
But now, like I say, it's like, listen, the hardest thing I had to do ever in my life wasn't going through SEAL training. It wasn't this or that. It was getting out of the military, losing that tribe
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
had. Right.
Yep.
And I just felt like I pulled my hand out of the bucket of water and the water didn't change. And the train just kept on going and I just got left.
Yeah.
And now, I say it's like it was so much easier being overseas, and we
Hmm.
control, dominate, manipulate, and bat the battlefield to bend to our will. We're pointing guns at people's faces. Get down, right? It's like,
Yeah.
and
Right.
then now I'm at home, right? I'm lacking my identity, right? I'm
Yes.
what
Talk about it all the time.
yeah,
Yep.
I'm lacking this identity of, oh, I was a SEAL.
Hmm.
I'm on the couch. The chaos is ensuing all around me. I can't control any of it,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And now,
Ambiguous. The
yeah,
questions are ambiguous. You don't know the answer to those things.
yeah,
You know.
and I don't even have the capacity to feel. So now I'm just getting anxious,
Mm.
right? And now I'm depressed. I have all these things coming up, and it's because I'm not able to process feelings or emotions,
Hmm.
right? What I noticed in my journey, and so it's like great. We're gonna send our men and women overseas in a capacity, right? Like I had a traumatic childhood. Not everyone does, right? But I'm seeing a pattern here
Yeah.
that a lot of people that serve, right, in either
Yep.
first responder or military,
Yeah.
especially enlisted, coming
Hmm.
right out of high school, like went right from high school pretty soon,
Oh,
right in,
did you really? I was
yeah,
going to ask you into college, but yeah, wow. Okay, so you're missing or not that you're missing formative years, but the very important formative years of your life
yeah,
are formed in this crucible of
yeah,
the military, of buds,
yeah,
of war. You know,
right. Yeah, so I just go right into my formative years, right, and miss that the part of like, hey, of development, right, because your prefrontal cortex isn't fully
right?
developed. So yeah, so I went right into that, and I learned, and I had adaptive behaviors to deal with what I dealt with in my childhood. I had those same behaviors come into the military. It's like, and yeah, I was emotionally stuck. I mean, it's not even jokingly call myself. I was an adult child.
Mm.
Right. I mean, and I think a lot of us, I mean, yeah. And I
Mhm.
say it sounds harsh, but it's like, yeah, I was an adult, but emotionally, I was a little boy.
Right.
I never was able, I was stuck.
I mean, I think like in my case, one of the attractions to the military in general was, it was a sort of delaying that growing up process. I was a finance major in school, and when I started looking at like what are these jobs, for
Yeah.
finance majors, and I was like, holy shit, what did I just get myself into? Like, I'm not ready for that. I want to jump out of airplanes and go
Yeah.
play soldier and do that whole
Yeah.
thing, and it is a form of sort of like, it's a little Peter Pan-ish in a sense.
No, well, but
know?
but because maybe just maybe you emotionally, I wasn't ready to be an adult at 18.
Right, right, right,
Like
right.
let alone 22.
Yeah,
I mean, I just stepping into my adulthood, my second half of life, really, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
and it's no, I think that we in the military, there's a certain bond that happens there,
Yeah,
especially in the SEAL teams. Listen, I
yeah.
would die for those men that I serve. I would die for them,
Hmm.
but I wasn't willing to process any of my feelings or talk about my feelings, let alone like be vulnerable, right? So all the stuff that I had in me, right? That the shame, right? I do believe there's a component for us, or for me. This is my story, right?
Yeah,
That people may hear in their own selves, but it's like, listen, the shame gets passed down. The trauma, right, that ensued was actually
yeah,
shame that got passed down, and
yeah.
what I've learned is like when we're little ones, right? We look out of the crib, we look up, and we see these blobs, right? And we cry, and we're like, oh, we get fed. Like they become our gods, our everything. And
Yeah,
then somewhere along that pathway, the little mind still, which is nothing like when you're a 5-year-old, like look at a 5-year-old's eyes. They're nothing but pure love,
yeah.
right? Just like, oh, butterfly. Like, it's like, oh, right? Like, man, I'd love to just be that 5-year-old again, right? Just like, in
Yeah.
pure awe of things. And somewhere along that, because we're so open, I think, when we're so open like that, we're opened up to all the love and everything. We're just taking it all in. We're
Mhm.
sponges.
Right.
And then,
Very bad.
our gods, right, that we still think, then betray us.
Mm.
Something's out of alignment. But now I'm not this. What I'm taking in is I'm taking in fear,
Yeah.
right? I'm taking in the shame,
Right.
right? I'm nothing but pure love. And what does pure love do? They just takes it all on.
Yeah.
But that's what shuts you down. So I energetically, and like not energetically, I took on that shame and that fear. It got
Right.
passed down to me, and I do think there's this component of multi generational trauma. I'm sure you've talked about
Yeah.
that before. You probably
Yeah.
multi. So not only do I have the DNA, but now that DNA gets turned on.
Yeah.
Here you
Right.
go. I got the DNA to help you with this. We have a protective measure for you. Well,
Yeah.
that's the setup. Right now, here I am. I'm set up. I've got the DNA, multi generational trauma. Now I have shame right in front of me that gets passed down to me, and now I'm stuck.
Yeah.
Now everything I do is what to survive.
Hmm.
I'm just gonna survive. And man, I had some really good, powerful things that I would do to manipulate and control to survive. But the reality is I have control over none of it.
Totally. You make me think of that saying, hurt people. And that choice in a lot of ways is to cause harm is a defense mechanism that of like
Yeah,
defending the harm that was, caused on us,
yeah,
and so that cycle of violence.
yeah. And I'm not even listen, I'm not really even aware. I numb myself. I normalize it. Why was I on my BMX bike? I was numbing myself with
Yeah.
adrenaline.
Yeah.
Like I was,
Right.
I was getting the high. It's like,
Yeah.
right?
Feeling something.
I got
Totally.
to feel something. and now I'm like doing these big jumps and knocking myself out or whatever. And then, right, you just hit on something, right? That's why I became a SEAL. I just wanted to feel. I had this thirst for feeling,
Mm.
right? But I had to push myself to the extreme to get that rush
Yeah. And
because
like,
because it was covered up with armor.
mhm. It's the same jaw, just like you said. It's the same that pull to be a SEAL in a lot of ways is the same pull that takes someone to heroin or takes somebody,
Right.
which is
Yeah.
it's when think about it that way, especially when we put
Yeah.
one so high up on a pedestal and it's like this, it's a great thing to strive for, like, but there is a level of like self-harm that is behind it in some way, and that's important to kind of like understand or
Yeah.
see how those things are parallel.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. Right. And so now here I am. I've got my shame. I don't even know I have this shame that I took on. Right. And then as I go and as I'm going through my formative years, then I act out in certain ways. Now I'm adding my own shame on
Yeah.
top of the shame that was passed down to me. So now it's completely covered up. I don't even know it's there. Right. But that thing that's there is the thing that needs to be dealt with. And if you don't deal with that initial shame, it can't collapse.
Mm.
Well, that's where we're missing. Like, listen, I had to give that shame back. I had to recognize that it was there. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't little Guy who was scared for his life. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't my doing. It wasn't in me. I was just love. I just took it on.
Yeah.
And if I don't collapse that, if I don't really get to the root cause of why I'm suffering, or even identify that I'm suffering in the first place, caught in the rat race and got to have more, whatever, right? Whatever
Mm-hmm.
addiction. Listen, we're all addicted. We're all covering up shame in
Yeah.
varying degrees, and we're all addicted to something. Pick your poison. And what you see now in society is how many people are addicted to drama.
Yeah, no shit, right?
The drama. No, listen, that's a real addiction.
uh,
And it's pulling us apart and it's making
mm-hmm.
us sicker. And the system is almost like
Yeah,
it's not a
they're
conscious
throwing
thing. Throwing gas
gasoline on
fuel.
that.
Yes,
Yeah.
let's throw some more fuel on
Right,
that because
right, right.
then they pick my side, red versus blue.
Yeah.
Well, both sides are just another side of the coin, and
Yeah.
who am I to judge? It's
Uh-huh.
like where I am now. It's like man, I can see a perspective there, and I can see a perspective there.
Same thing.
Yeah,
Let
right,
me ask you a question, because you said something about kind of like getting to the root cause of that shame and sort of double clicking, collapsing it, I think is what the way you put it. What can you elaborate on that? Like, what does that mean to kind of get to the root cause of that shame and then collapse it?
yeah. In my journey of healing. So this is where this is the kind of work that I do now, right? So good lead question, but I would say one, I have to first identify that I have that shame.
Mm-hmm.
What's the story, right? What was the thing that you may even so uh, it was so damaging. I work with men that have there's a lot more sexual trauma, men being sodomized, right? Trauma
Totally.
than we want to even talk about, right? And it's like,
Sure.
oh my gosh, and that's the thing that a man is going to take to the grave.
Right, right. In the military and within the special operations community too, it is more prevalent than just in talking with people and
Yeah,
yeah, it's you wouldn't think that, but you can see how it's sort of like a defense mechanism or like
right,
an overcompensation for that thing. Like, I will
right.
never be anyone's
No
punk
one,
again.
no one
Yeah,
will ever hurt me
yeah,
again.
yes, yeah,
I will become
100%.
the most badass
Yeah,
whatever, and
yeah,
no one
yeah.
will ever hurt me. And I'm gonna
Right.
carry that shame. That shame. It was my fault. I was open. I opened myself up to that. I let that in. No,
Right.
you were nothing but love. And someone, a hurt person, took advantage of you. It wasn't yours, and it wasn't your fault. And
Yeah.
to really, really grieve that, to really like, oh my gosh, finally I have a space, right? When someone sees me and says, brother, I see you,
Mm.
and I'm going to hold space for you, and I'm going to help you get to the root cause of why you're suffering in the first place. Listen, it's your story. It's not mine. You have to tell it with all your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't tell it in your own head because you've made a false, you definitely created a false narrative around it to protect
Mm-hmm.
yourself.
Mm-hmm. So it
So,
sounds like a little bit of identifying that there is a problem, that there
right.
is some form of shame that's going on, and then B, pulling out like what is the narrative that I've been telling myself about that situation, and then it's almost like a form of like self forgiveness, or is that kind of
It definitely is like this, man, when you really peel back down, whatever happened, I don't go into details of my childhood.
yeah,
It's not,
yeah, that's
not
okay. I
important,
don't
right? Yeah, it's not
know
important.
for sure.
But
Right.
whatever happened, whatever that perpetrator, that person that
Yep.
betrayed me, right? Mom, dad. Usually it's like a mom, dad, uncle, whatever, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
a pastor, I mean, what someone of authority, someone that you thought, okay, I'm safe, I can be open. I'm young, right? I'm still trying to find my safety,
Yeah.
right? And then that perpetrator betrays you. It's not their fault. You're taking it on yourself, right? It's like, oh, this is my fault. And all along, that person, that human on the other side, was probably violated or whatever, emotionally abused, neglected, abandoned, or whatever themselves,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they know no better. Like that, they are following patterns that they're stuck with their shame, right? And they're doing the best they can. They're humans doing the best they can. And really to get it, like to really look, at all of this, whatever came into my life that I thought I was a victim to, right? And really energetically say, you know what, you were a human doing the best you could, and please forgive me. Not I don't like forgive me for making you wrong, because I made you wrong. I put you up as a god, right, or whatever above me, right? But you were just a human.
Yeah.
There's a certain power in that. Like wow, like I don't need to forgive. What is there to forgive,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I wouldn't be where I am now if it wasn't everything that I went through. I think
For sure.
when we start doing this work, and the higher you go on this, and for me to be really like, hey, listen, I have absolutely no resentment and only love for everything that happened for me in my life.
Right.
That's not easy to achieve, right? And how could we forgive and knowing, I'm just going to go back, knowing that every single person that came into my life for a reason,
Yeah.
and everything they did, I thought, to me, happened for me.
Yeah. Dude, my kind of like spiritual belief about our own lives and whatnot is that we are this is like a simulation of some sort, like a spiritual agoge where we're trying to level up and do something, and so we're before you sort of spawn in this life, like
Right.
we're picking the problem sets that we want,
That's right.
and that doesn't, I hate sometimes that can be controversial thing to say, because it's sort of like when you talk to somebody who's a victim, it's almost like victim blaming in a
Right.
weird way.
Yeah.
But I think it's just sort of elaborating what you are saying, in that like these things are the challenges that we have are happening for us. They're not just happening
Yeah.
at you, to you. You are there to grow, and yeah.
I
Go
want to
ahead.
add. I love that analogy, and I use the analogy of listen. This is your universe. The minute
Right.
you're
Right.
conscious, you're in your three-dimensional movie. This is a badass movie, right? I mean, I get to feel in this movie. I like, wow, this is an incredible experience, right? And you are the main actor, obviously, and then not only that, I'm the producer, I'm the director, I'm the all the actors around me are actually me,
Mhm.
right? It's my movie.
Mhm.
I subconsciously believe, right? I really believe spiritually that yes, we decide almost even beforehand that here's your crucibles, here's your trials and tribulations. But because I'm a victim, I'm not seeing anything from a perspective of why is this happening for me right now?
Mhm.
I immediately go into victimhood. It's like, oh, like right, and then now it's like I never grow.
Mhm.
If I have the perspective that it's happening, it's actually all me, and I'm the one, then I'm taking authority.
Yeah, you're the agent now.
I'm the agent now.
Right.
Why are we giving our power away? Why
Right.
do I
Right.
constantly give
Love
my
that.
power away? Like in this movie now, like the movie now, just go down that string is I was just an unconscious reactor to everything around me. How like that's no way to live life. I'm just reactive now. Someone cuts me off the freeway. Fuck you, ah,
Yeah.
rage, right? Why? Because I'm addicted to my cortisol and I'm addicted
Uh-huh.
to adrenaline
That's
in my
interesting.
movie.
That's
So in
really
my movie,
interesting.
right? Because let's pull the string.
Yeah.
I love this, Jordan. Let's pull the string. In my movie now, I'm calling in things that are gonna give me my fix.
Mhm. Totally, bro. You talk to those people sometimes that where it's like, I call them like the Eeyore, like the rain
Yeah.
cloud always, you know what I mean? And it's like they lost their job, their car broke down, there's this, and it's not to say that like shit doesn't happen, but it's like there are some people who it's just like it seems like they effortlessly kind of go through life, and then people that are sort of the opposite. And I think you're kind of hitting on it where it's like it's again not trying to victim blame, but
No.
there is sort of is like you're creating the narratives, you are producing this movie, so
Right.
what? And if those people that are feeling shitty all the time,
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like it's like they're addicted to that, like,
They want to feel.
sympathy,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Well, if we have power to manifest, right? There's this
Right.
new age. Oh, like I can
Sure.
manifest it. Well, if I'm in the mindset of anxiousness, if I'm constantly anxious,
Yeah.
guess what I'm going to see? I'm
Yeah.
only going to see things that are going to make me anxious. But if
Mm-hmm.
I sit at the place of gratitude, if I work on my gratitude, like self affirmations. Like I'm always reminded
Mm-hmm.
of the Saturday Night Live skit, right? She's like, "I am perfect. I am this." Like
Yeah. Yeah.
right.
Right.
But affirmations is the I am. Like, what am I? I am. I am. I say I am anxious. Like, yeah, okay. If you want to I am yourself into anxiousness, go right ahead.
Uh-huh.
And if you
Right.
believe that to be your reality, guess what? That's going to be
Yeah.
your reality. And I tell you this from another this opposite side of the seat where I am now. It's like my life is not the same. It's like I was probably, if I use the analogy of we're energy, right? Everything's energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And consciousness, or just make consciousness, my movie makes it particle form.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
unless I'm interacting with it, it's just energy. It's 99.9% pure space and energy
Right. Right.
until I interact with it. That's scientifically proven. Okay,
Yeah.
well
That
now
makes
let's put that into my movie. Now anything beyond this room and what we're doing right here, right, is energy. It's not doesn't exist,
sense.
right? So now like start peeling that back. It's like okay, I need to become my own agent. Listen, I and my brothers and you and a lot of veterans and first responders, like we would give our lives for the freedoms that we have in this country.
Mm-hmm.
But I always ask guys, are you really free? And if you are unconsciously reacting to your movie,
Mm-hmm.
it has you.
Dude.
No,
Incredible. Yeah, 100%. Do you know this who Ed Calderon is?
no.
He's like a narco police guy from Mexico. Super cool guy. He's been on Joe Rogan a couple times. But he was part of this like elite sort of like SWAT team that was they were going after cartels. They were like cartel hunters.
Yeah,
Anyway, so now that he's been out, and he has a really interesting story, because these police, like, essentially their retirement plan is to go work for the cartel. So, and he didn't
right.
do that, so he kind of went his whole deal, but he does these courses. Anyway, I'm telling you all this because I did one of his courses a couple months ago, and
Yeah,
it was all about like escaping like restraints, and it's called counter custody. It was the course. So if
yeah,
you're in a non-permissive environment, something happens, whatever. And
yeah,
anyway, he said something that is like it echoes in my head, and so he showed us this picture, and it was on a job that he actually did, and it was like 3 or 4 people. They're in a room. They're restrained out in front of them, so it's not like they were even hands behind them. They were restrained in front, and they had a bag over their head. They had been in custody for maybe 3 weeks or so, and by the time Ed's unit had gotten to the place, their captors, they had already taken off, and I think they only had one guy watching them to begin with.
Yeah.
But so what he said was that, like, if you think there's no way to get out of something, there isn't. You're right. You
Right.
are correct. And so
Yeah.
always just kind of holding that, like, don't like lose that little grain of hope that, like,
Right.
because you're creating the prison in your own mind in some ways. Sorry to take us off, but what
No, but you're
you
right. Like
really,
like
yeah,
the lack of freedom
yeah,
isn't something that you can change on the outside.
right.
See, everyone tries to change their environment. I'm trying to change and control the environment to bend to
Hmm.
my will.
Hmm.
That's all ego thought. That's all, hey, I'm small self trying to put things in place to survive. All based in fear. Very limited. And if I'm an energy being, which I am, like we just talked about that, I'm an energy being constantly fighting against my environment, which it can't be controlled. Well, out from the outside, right? That's the illusion. I'm thinking
Hmm.
I can control my environment from the outside, when all along the imprisonment wasn't everything that was happening outside of me; it was everything that was happening inside of me,
Hmm.
right? So I built the prison, and now I'm in a prison with bars that I can't even see, unaware that I'm suffering in the first place, unaware that I'm easily triggered. Now, if I'm an energy body and I'm at 50%, say now, like I'm exhausted emotionally, I I'm hitting the cortisol all day long. I'm hypervigilant. Do you know how exhausting that is?
Yeah, no
You're
shit.
aware, right? And you see guys that are on their couch and hitting the adrenaline because they've gotten so they created a story and a narrative in their minds, right? That they don't have any hope, and now everyone's out to hurt me, this, that, and the other, to get that fixed.
So let me ask you one thing. So I'm totally with you on all of this, but I want to. So here's like a very like practical sort of material problem. Money being a problem. Man, the bills aren't going to pay themselves. We live in a super expensive, the most expensive city. You know, how do I make more money? How does like shifting mindset kind of
Yeah,
change, help manifest, I guess, something that is very fucking ego based, like, money.
yeah. I think there's a couple strings to pull on that. One, it's like, what's my attachment to money? Yeah, there's a certain level of, hey, like, I mean, this reality that's in my movie. My movies require me to have a certain amount of money to have a roof over my head.
Right.
Um, and so my relationship's way different with money than it was before, right?
Mm.
Because I was actually trying to make more money to what make myself happier on the inside. So there's that relationship.
Yeah.
And I got a thumbs up. I'll stop doing
Yeah. So that.
that. So yeah, you're correct. Um,
Nailed
so
it.
yeah, so I was trying to achieve happiness again. That's part of the controlling my environment, making more money.
Yeah.
And
Right.
hey, listen, I'm very, very fortunate. I have two pensions. I retired early from the fire service from my traumas, right? And I did have a lot of trauma, like, I'd say, kind of going back, but, I think there's traumas that we experienced overseas that were a lot easier to deal with because we had this transition period, right? We
Yeah.
left there. For us, we're lucky. We went to Germany, decompressed, they now probably even have therapists involved and all that stuff,
Sure.
right? But we use
Definitely.
the alcohol for our therapy,
Yeah.
and then I go back into another world, right? Where
Mhm.
here, our first responders, it's
There's no
like
state.
there's no space. Right? You're
Yeah.
going right from a really bad call right to home, and it's really personal, right? And again, and
Yeah.
when you're the things that you see are things that are going to trigger you. Again, it's
Yeah.
your movie. You're trying to you're trying, like everything, again, everything happens for you. I'm calling it in, right? The things that are, that especially in the first responder world, I'm going to see things, right, that are really going to hit deep
Yeah.
and really be hard. And it's going to make that thing behind the thing, right? The shame, the initial shame, that much more powerful, right? And then eventually, I, I'll, because I don't reconcile, I haven't worked through that, right? That's when I want to take my own life. That's when I lose hope. But the money question was important, maybe to some of your audience, so we can tackle that a little bit too.
Sure.
So now going back to my relationship, right? What's my relationship to it? Like, and
Yeah.
I think we have to have a job. Listen, I don't want to ever have a job again. I want to have a purpose,
Yes, dude. I feel the same way, man. That's
right?
totally.
I want to have a purpose. I want to have a calling. I, I think that if we allow ourselves, or we start to heal ourselves, we start to heal each other, right? Then we can fall into our purpose and our calling. Otherwise, I'm just going to be of the environment around me, and I'm going to do the best I can, and I have to make a certain amount of money because I'm comparing myself to the neighbors, and they got a better car, and now I want a bigger house because you see the problem, right? And it all goes back to I'm not looking inside, I'm not
Mhm.
healing inside. None of your problems are outside of you. None of them.
Mhm.
The money's not the problem, right? We gotta
Yeah.
go inside. We got to go inside, and we got to really start. Again, we have to even realize, maybe if one person that listens to us says, "Huh, I'm actually not even free."
Right.
I react all the time, and the battery that is barely sustaining 50%, right? You get home, you're exhausted. Why? Because you're just thinking constantly, thinking.
Mhm.
When you're thinking that much, your brain is using so much energy.
Yeah.
Coffee's not going to do it for you. Now I'm
Right.
going to have to do Monster energy drinks, like whatever, just to get it, just to get a level to just because I'm just trying to survive. And now my battery never gets above 50. So now I have to make more money, or I have to have the bigger house. I have to have the new car, right? To make me feel better. My energy goes up a little bit. I'm like, oh man, that feels good. This car's nice. And now, but I'm more in prison because now I can't park close to the grocery store because I don't want to get exercise and I want to walk just a little bit. Now I got to park my car way far away because someone's going to freaking scratch my car.
Right. Right.
The insanity, right? Again,
Right.
it goes back to I'm trying to fill my battery up with things outside of me.
Mm. That's wow. Now, what were a couple like pivotal moments that kind of got you away from thinking, the way that you had while you were in and while you were as a first responder, and towards this more personal development, learning how to introspect and manage your own stuff. Where did that shift come for you?
So I was really lucky again, in my movie. Again, mystical experiences, like timing, everything, right?
Right.
So that same day I was going to take my life. My senior firefighter, that when I was on probation, we were really close. He drove down. He was like, I got to drive down. He drove down that day to see me. He was all the way up in Long Beach, right? So he came
Mm.
down to Encinitas to visit me, and um, him and my wife, like I guess he had something I seeded in his ear of like this program called Save a Warrior. It was a suicide prevention program. And so I was pointed towards that program.
Mm.
And in that program, a lot of the dialogue and a lot of the words that I use here, it started there, right? That's where
Wow.
I finally identified the root causes of my suffering. The light bulb was going off, right?
Uh,
And I had some experiences there. I mean, we don't have time in this show to go through it, but I had some experiences there that blew me off my feet. because
Wow.
they would talk about the higher power, like surrender, like like higher, like, I was like an atheist at the time. It's like nothing, like it's all like I'm really stuck in ego, right?
Mm,
I don't want to believe anything beyond me, or that
right.
there might be something beyond this movie, right? This consciousness, right? So I really I touched in on that. I really like, hey, if you're real, if there is something beyond this, throw me a fucking bone, because I feel like I'm so alone. And man, they threw the biggest bone. It nearly knocked me down, right? And I still
Wow.
can't explain what happened, right? But it really got me, like my faith was so low, it was at the very bottom, right? I
Oh,
had no faith. So it got me on this, like, wait a minute, there is something beyond this. I don't know what it is. Call it God, call it whatever, higher power. There is something, there's a
mhm,
spirit, whatever, like there's an energy beyond this
mhm.
that is somehow, I'm trying to put this, I mean, I have another language for this, but that somehow has my back.
Right.
And if I actually start communicating with that, if I start listening to that voice, right? If I start really calming down this way. So now that leads me to
Mhm.
the biggest thing that got me, that allowed me to continue to grow this, right, was meditation.
Hmm.
I
Yeah. What
I,
I'm
I
gonna ask you.
meditate once, twice a day, right? I mean, I get up at 5:30 intentionally. I start my day with intentionally doing doing very intentional things. I make my bed, right? Like it's an intentional thing. It's like, hey, it's part of like signifying to my body, hey, like we're going into the day, right?
Yeah.
Stepping outside and getting, actually stepping out into the sun for a little bit, right? Very
Hmm.
intentional. But the first thing I do is I get right out of bed and I meditate for 20 or 30 minutes.
Like a mindfulness meditation, or
Just mindfulness, like
yeah,
learning to be the observer of the
yeah,
crazy ego-based thoughts that I have that are
right.
like the monkey brain.
Hmm.
Like if my brain is so freaking loud, guess what? I'm not even going to hear the birds.
Yeah.
And as I even a funny story on that, as I started getting into this practice of meditation initially, and I remember distinctly sitting on my patio upstairs, and I was like, is that a new bird that made its way to Encinitas, California? I mean, this most like incredible sound. No, that bird has been there the whole fucking time.
It's been living in a tree for the last 10 years. Come on, guy.
Wake
Yeah.
the fuck up,
Yeah. Yeah. You
right?
know,
It's there, but we can't even hear it. Like we're hearing the noise, but
for
we're not
sure.
really listening to the essence of what it is.
I mean, how many times have you driven to work and been so lost in thought that you don't even remember half the trip? It's a similar type of deal. It's like, you can literally operate a vehicle safely and
Mm-hmm.
not be present in
Not even
the
be present.
yeah, right?
So the art of meditation, I say, listen, it's not sexy. But it's freaking easy,
Mm,
right? But you have to dedicate yourself to it. If I
hmm.
don't dedicate myself to this, if I think, oh man, everything's going good today and it's going good yesterday, and no,
Yeah.
I keep on meditating because it's just getting even better.
Shit.
Why is that important? Well, because what's happening is that, hey, I go to the gym. I want to make sure that I'm able to physically do the things that I want to do, right? So I take care of my body, but then
Hmm.
my brain is just out of control. RPM just full red line,
Yeah.
right?
I get that way, man.
Right? Full red line. So how do I then decrease the red line to get it into a normal operating, right, spectrum, right? Like let's get it back into the out of the red. Let's get it back down. So
Hmm.
meditation is the way there.
Hmm.
Why what's happening? Well, the style of meditation that I got taught was called warrior meditation. You put warrior on anything, it like at least veterans I'm like,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
I
That for me.
warrior meditation. Let's go. It's like sold, sold. And here I am, this Navy SEAL that meditates every day, and journal. I journal. Like, well, then you have a
Yeah.
retire. You diary yourself? Like, yes, and I talk about that too. But this idea of why I meditate, like, what's the reason? Why do I continue to practice it? What I'm training my mind to do is like, here we go, thoughts, thought. And if you're caught in
Mm,
so much thinking, guess what I'm missing? I'm missing reality because everything that I'm
mm,
thinking is a projection, right? It's a projection of now I'm projecting my thoughts. So if I'm anxious, this goes back to if I'm anxious, I am anxious. I am anxious. Guess what? I'm projecting those thoughts into my environment. Now I'm changing my whole environment with just my thoughts. So,
right.
like, man, I can add some pills to this. I guess I can do some ayahuasca. I guess I'm not against all these tools that we have,
Right.
but none of them are, it may, like, if you notice after a medicine journey or whatever, or just going backpacking without your phone, you start to have this wow, this
Mm,
clarity in between. And so meditation for me is this gift of actually creating space between thoughts.
mm-hmm.
So if I'm here, if they're all thought, I'm going to unconsciously react to whatever happens in front of me. Why? Because I'm feeding off shame. I have these patterns, right? We don't even think about how we open a door. We just open the door, right? And if someone cuts me off, I go right into a preconditioned response, which is unconscious. It's right there, right? So now the way through is like, wait a minute. So now here I am. I've been meditating for, I don't know, like, say 2-3 months, but I'm starting to experience the world just a little bit differently. I'm seeing it through different. I'm starting to, well, that bird, well, that's amazing. Or going on a walk, right, with my dog, and just think, come on, let's go, dog. Like rushing him along, and I got someplace to go, for
Right.
God's
Right.
sakes,
Right.
right? He's just
Right.
trying to check his P-mail along the way, and he's missing. He's like, Dad, I got a mail over there, right? So I'm not even seeing the trees, right? And so it's crazy to me, even to this day, I sometimes walk with the dog in the same neighborhood that I've walked 1,000 times, and I'm like, wow, that tree's popping today. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually seeing it because I'm not caught in my own thinking what I think it is, or dismissing it, or judging it, or whatever, right? So now here, I'm training myself, like, constantly, like, how much space can I get here? Because now if someone cuts me off on the freeway, right? If they do, I oddly enough, I would get cut off on the freeway all the time. There's all the assholes were on the road, just
Exactly, dude.
like they were.
Exactly what
I
I'm
go
talking about.
like they like they. Oh man, why now? I don't see any of them. Well, maybe I
Yeah.
was the asshole. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm questioning
Right.
that, right? But again, going back to that movie analogy, is I was
Mhm,
calling that all in. It was me. It
mhm,
wasn't like, no. I don't see
mhm.
it anymore. Why? I don't need to see it. I don't like those small things are well gone. And if someone does cut me out, like, I just almost got in an accident. Thank goodness I wasn't in my van. I had a loaner car. I have this conversion van. It's really heavy, and had I been in that, I was just like, that person wouldn't be alive,
Oh shit! Wow.
because I mean they just went right, and
Um,
so I'm in this high performance Mercedes, right,
mhm.
and I'm on the phone, and I tossed the phone, and I went right into, like you know I didn't even think about it, right? I have schools in driving, so I did the thing, and I completely avoided it, and I grabbed the phone, picked it up. I didn't even have a spike of
Okay.
adrenaline.
Right.
I surely wasn't like, mother, like, you went motherfucker.
Uh huh.
None of that. I
Uh
was
huh.
just like, yeah, oh man, that was close. I almost got in an
Like,
accident.
whew. Yeah.
Like,
Good thing I
not
didn't.
even like
Right.
like it didn't happen, right? So I didn't need to even get to, like, I'm not addicted to the adrenaline anymore. I was like,
Yeah.
it hit me that day when I finally got to my, where I was going. I
Well.
was like, wait a minute, I think I broke my addiction to
Mm, mm-hmm.
cortisol and adrenaline. That
That
was
makes a lot of sense.
crazy. Almost like a mystical, like almost mystically, like, how did I, like, I didn't even I just went into a maneuver and came out, and like, it didn't even happen.
Right.
It's gone. It instantly goes away. Instead of being like all pissed off, all fueled up, all this, right, and then taking
Replaying
that,
it over and over
replaying,
again.
and then what I
Yeah.
got to do, I got to go into the door where I'm going and tell 5 people,
Uh
like,
huh.
I'm
Oh,
so
right.
stuck there. What a
Right. Right.
fucking waste. So
Right.
now my battery, right, that I can't get up, I'm wasting my energy on
Yeah.
all the shit that doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Right.
So meditation. Now,
Can you
listen.
tell me a little bit about that warrior meditation? Like, as brief as you would like to elaborate about it, but just for the listeners so that they can
Yeah,
kind of get an idea for what it is. Maybe they could try it.
yeah. And I'll share a link. I'll just give you a link too. But it just the quick
Cool.
dirty. It's a 20-minute meditation that's broken up into 6-minute and 40-minute segments. So 3 equal segments. So the first segment of that is like this finger tapping and a which is a mudra, like we consider a mudra, and a mantra. So I'm actually saying something in my head and I'm tapping my fingers. That's like this idea they call it the nullification. I'm trying to nullify thought, right? It's really
Mm.
hard if you're concentrating on this, right?
Yeah.
And saying a madra. If I'm saying something in my head, it's hard for thoughts to come through. So
Mhm.
it breaks down that first segment really, breaks down that coming out of all the energy, right? I'm closing my eyes, I'm shutting down as much senses as possible. It helps you bring you back into that space a little bit easier. It's an
Mhm.
entry point. And then the next phase, so the middle phase is same thing. You're doing the madra, you're saying the thing in your head, right? Whatever that thing is for you. They use ava, right? So but they you can use whatever you want.
Mhm.
And I'm breathing. I'm breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, right? And I'm purposely breathing. I'm breathing with my belly. We don't even breathe right because of our willingness to want to look skinny. We actually breathe out of our chest versus our belly. You watch a baby breathe, but baby breathes with their belly, right? So we're constantly walked around stressed, like under tension, right? Just by breathing. Yeah,
It's
right now we're shallow
hyperventilating,
breathing, like
basically.
it's
Yeah.
horrible. Which is then engaging the system to be in what a hyper
Mm.
vigilant state. It's
Yeah.
like it's a whole physiology thing too.
Totally.
I'm teaching myself to breathe correctly, even right. I wasn't even breathing right. So now through meditation, it's like really belly breath. Fill the belly or drop the diaphragm. Fill the chest with that, and then you fill the top part of the chest, and you suck in that last bit, and then let it out. Right, in through the nose, out through the nose. So that happens for 6 minutes 40 seconds. So the last phase of this, the last 6 minutes and 40 seconds, it's metacognition. Right, I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna be the observer of my thoughts.
Hmm.
The only way through this, in my opinion, I think not only that I don't want. There's probably many ways, right? But I think for me on my path is I had to become the observer of my thinking mind, right? I had to separate myself from those thoughts and be the observer in order to then put them at bay. So the thoughts, right, are the ego part, right? Say ego, right? We are in control. I'm going to edge God or higher power completely out of this, and I'm just going to think my way through this, back and forth thinking. And if you really start to identify your thoughts, like sit in it, put an eye mask on or close your eyes and start to identify your thoughts, you're like, all thoughts are either going to be in the past or they're going to be in the future. There's no such thing as a current thought. It's all a past story or a future, or worse off, a past story that's projected into the future.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So now through thinking, I'm not being present. If I'm
Hmm.
not present, then I'm not going to have the space. So I'm teaching myself to be present. Okay, that's a thought comes through instantly or right away. It's like thought. Oh, what kind of thought is that? Is that a past thought or a future thought? I just play a game with you. Identify it. Oh, that's a past thought.
Interesting.
Or hey, mow the lawn. You have to mow the lawn. The wife said you got to mow the lawn. It's like I'm meditating right now. That's a future thought. Let it go. It's not serving me. Oh, past thought. Yeah, but that's not reality. That's not now. Is any of the things that happened in your past real? Only to who?
You, I guess. Right.
Yeah, yeah. You're the only one it's
Right.
real to. But we're replaying those thoughts constantly,
Right.
and so
You know,
now,
something about like discomfort is even kind of that way, or pain or anything like that, where it's pain isn't happening right now. It just happened and you've already endured that pain. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And
yeah,
now you are like caught on the thought of what just happened and then the anxiety that you might feel it again. You know what I mean? But the right now is pain free. Yeah.
yeah, right, truly, right. So now we have a mechanism, like I say, you can, I jokingly say, well, past thought, swipe right. Future
Yeah.
thought, swipe right.
Yeah.
Like I'm just swiping away. Swipe,
Yeah.
swipe. Or the analogy of the leaf coming out of the tree. It's like that leaf is your thought.
Yeah.
Great. Oh, that's a past thought. It's going to hit the river and it's going to go down the river.
And so you're
It's gone.
visualizing this a little bit. Like that's kind of the
Yeah.
way that you're
Yeah.
occupying, or not occupying your mind, but like that's the way that you are addressing these thoughts as they go up. It's almost like a
That's how I'm
visually.
learning. That's how I'm
Yeah.
learning to observe the thought.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Cool.
So like, oh yeah, I do. I think a lot, and it's none of it's really serving me. Like I mean, get to a level like, I mean, it's hard not to think. I mean, I still like, thoughts are bubbling up in my mind all the time, right?
Right. Right.
But more and more, I say now when I hold space for someone, when like this, even this podcast, I have no idea what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
I don't know. But if I try to think about what I'm going to talk about, then I'm losing something there. I'm losing authenticity.
Mhm.
Listen, this
Totally.
is my story. This is what I'm going through. These are the things that work for me. I didn't read this in a, I mean, just read this in a textbook. I watched masters and sages, right?
Mm.
I'm actually being present, more present than ever with people that I never thought in a million years would be my teacher, to include a homeless man on a park bench outside of my gym. I had
Wow.
a 2-month relationship with this man. He was Eckhart Tolle on steroids.
That's awesome,
But
dude.
if I didn't, but if I had a judgment in my mind, if I was thinking, right, if I wasn't
Mm.
open, if I wasn't open, and what hit me on him was I was, I'm trying to be more mindful, like, you know, I, I'm on my journey, right? I'm still not really aware. I don't have the 30,000 foot view yet, but like, well, I'm going to ask this guy if he needs anything, right?
Mm.
Like be the good person. I was, I'm being authentic with it, right? I'm not being inauthentic. I mean, like, hey, like, hey, do you need anything?
Yeah.
And he looks at me like he just looks up and he says, brother, I have everything I need.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I was like, this guy's homeless. He's dirty, right? And he looked at me when he said it was not only how he said it, it was how I felt when he
Mm.
said it.
Mhm.
Why? Because I'm on
Mhm.
my journey. I'm starting to feel more. I'm actually feeling people. We're all empaths, but now I'm starting to feel like the impact of what he just delivered to me. And I couldn't get him out of my mind. So about thinking, right? I was like I, I need to engage this. I wanted so badly to engage this person now. So I was hoping the next day, it's like, I hope he's there, right? It wasn't one thing. And so I went into the gym, he wasn't there. And when I came out, he was there. And I thought, well, how, like, I was almost nervous to talk to this guy, right? I don't know why. It's craziness, right? It's just a homeless guy in a park bench. And I was like, it dawned on me, like, oh, just don't sit on the bench with him. Sit on the step next to him. Put yourself below him
Mhm.
and open yourself fully to him. What is the one thing that I have that he probably would appreciate?
It's like time.
Time.
Just someone to
Just time.
hear. Yeah, just
Time.
time.
Just time. Listen, we're not even giving ourselves time, let alone other people.
Mm.
So
And
I
let
sat
alone
down.
someone that weaves or society tells you is, I don't know anyone that's striving to be homeless. You know what I mean? So you're kind of already associating, like, what could I possibly learn from this? Why would I
What
give
can I
my time?
learn?
Right,
Why would I
right.
give my time to this homeless guy?
Mhm.
And then this unfolding, this holy cow, this guy's Eckhart Tolle on steroids.
Mhm.
Literally God on the park bench, delivering something to me so freaking powerful that I'm like baffled that no one like he should have 20 people sitting around him listening to this. Just a homeless guy. But if I was caught in thinking, let me just go back, right? If I was caught in
Mhm.
thinking, oh, judgment, right? Thinking, judgment, comparison, it's all ego-based stuff, right? Thinking's all ego-based stuff based on an old story again, right? So if I was caught there, if I was, if it had me, if I was caught in the illusion of that, I would have missed it.
Mhm.
So now, like the gift was, I was already here. I was already here. I was already, experiencing the world a little bit differently, and I'm so open. Listen, Jordan, I don't have any of this figured out. I don't know shit. Why is that important? Because now it opens up the possibility that you may have something really important to say.
Right.
But
Right.
if I'm in this if I'm not truly present, right? If I'm thinking, how many times have you been in a conversation with someone and you were just thinking about what you were going to answer?
Yeah. Right. Right. Like, or like waiting for the next thing that you're gonna say or something like that. Like, totally, dude. That's
All the time, all the time. Me too, all
yeah.
the time.
Right. For
I'm
sure.
trying to validate my significance because I'm caught in
Right.
shame. I'm caught in shame. You see it now. I'm caught in this shame. So I have to externally validate some kind of position to cover up the shame. And
So when you went
meanwhile,
back, oh, sorry, I was just going to
no, you're
ask,
good.
what happened when you sat next to him the next day, and
So
what did
I
he tell you?
developed a 2.5 month relationship with him. I just
Wow,
carved it. It was part of my day. I would work out.
yeah,
And we were on hugging terms. It was
oh,
amazing, right?
that's cool.
I got him a Christmas present. You know, it was all through. You know, it was winter, so and I got him a journal because he said he was gonna write a book, right? And I was like, like I'm not surprised, friend. Like I'm gonna
Yeah,
see you on YouTube, right? Like
yeah,
Eckhart Tolle, at some point in this. Is like, and he was an older guy. He's probably it's hard to tell, because he was
yeah.
pretty
Got them
shoveled up.
Baja miles. Yeah,
Yeah, right. But he was probably in his 60s, right? But very, very wise. So yeah, there was this transmission because of my, again, openness, because I'm not caught in thinking,
Mhm.
right? And me, like, listen, if I'm going to give my time, if I'm just caught in my own thinking while I'm giving my time, then what am I doing? I'm fucking wasting my time.
Mm.
Why? Because I'm there for my own
You're-
significance.
yeah,
See the
yeah,
difference? I'm there
yeah.
for my own significance. Well, I'm gonna help this guy. No, I'm gonna help him.
Right, right.
Significance, thoughts, thoughts,
Well,
thoughts,
well,
thoughts.
you're also not in. It's like you're saying, like you by
Not
doing
present,
that, you're not present. So you're just living in some other time frame that isn't now, and that you don't really have control over because it's not now. you
right?
know.
Yeah, and again, I'm thinking about the future of what because I want to be significant,
Hmm.
want to say to him because I'm his savior.
Right,
Hear,
right, right,
hear this right? Like hey,
right.
warriors are everyone else's saviors. Warriors become everyone else's saviors. All service, nurses,
Mhm.
first responders,
Yeah,
veterans. We become warriors because we don't want anyone else to get hurt.
yeah, yeah.
We become now. There's a lot of dynamics and things that play out in there, right? Now I'm never gonna look inside. I got to help everyone else. Like no. I I don't know shit. I have so much to learn. I have so much to learn. Like that the true wisdom is really thinking that knowing that you know nothing
Hmm.
and being open to the possibility that hey, maybe there's all the religions, right, are pointing to the same thing, and maybe if I open myself, like I'm not confined to just one religion. I'm not against that. I'm just saying for me it's like, listen, I think there's great things that the sage Jesus Christ, right, was trying to transmit to us, right? And some people got it because they sat around the park bench and listened to him, or on the Sermon on the Mount, right, because he had something profound to say, right? And then maybe Buddha, yeah, Buddha, and other masters, that are saying they're all saying the same thing in different ways.
Hmm.
And now I'm just open to the possibility of like, whoa, what? Like now that I'm learned how to meditate, I'm now, my meditation is different now. I just go right into metacognition. I don't need to stair step myself there. I can drop in. I can drop in, and I'm training myself, going back to the original question, I'm training myself just to slow down the thinking mind so that I can actually see reality, life on life's terms,
Right.
and not be reactive. And then have that mindset of like, listen, I'm the one calling this in anyways. It's all me.
How long
And
did it
now,
take you to get to that point where you felt,
mm,
what, regularly meditating, where you're like, hey, I've made a little bit of space now, and I feel this isn't like an uncomfortable,
yeah.
chore to me.
Uh, I was at 30 when I got my first hit of the bird. I was like, oh, there's something here. Or I did be in a meditation, not feeling my body. That took about
Mm.
30 plus days, right? And
Mhm.
I think I was probably in a past life, if you believe in that, like I probably was already meditating. I think I really
Uh,
mastered the art of meditation in a previous life that I took into this one because I got there pretty fast.
yeah, yeah, that's
It's
pretty.
not the
That
case,
seems
but
good.
I think it's like there's no place to go. That's all
Yeah.
ego, right?
Uh-huh.
So it's just I'm just trying to become more aware, more present. And in order to have awareness, I have to have presence, right? Because if I'm projecting my thoughts, all I'm going to get back is, because I'm the producer and the director, if I'm projecting my thoughts, all I'm going to get back are those thoughts.
Right. Now, if someone feels stuck in their life, like what is what's sort of the first steps that they should take to kind of feeling unstuck?
Well, it's stuck as a, it,
Yeah, maybe that's a
I don't,
weird that's a weird
no,
term. I
but
don't know
no,
if I
it's not.
exactly
Let me
mean.
work. Can I work with that though?
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah, like stuck, right? So I'm stuck, right? Yeah, like I think there's verbiage like we get stuck. We're stuck in a past, right? We're stuck in the old story. We're stuck as little
Yeah.
kids, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but I think it's the suffering, right? Am I is can life be better or am I missing something? Am I free? Right? Like that's it's yeah, stuck, but like stuck. How do you? What's the if I'm just saying where if I'm saying just I'm stuck, where do I go from there? So, but if I
Unstuck.
identify, yeah,
Yeah.
but if I identify like what I'm lacking,
Oh, I
I'm
see. Yeah.
lacking. I think, and this was coming up, right? This is
Yeah.
all new thought. Like if I'm identifying what I want to be, like what I'm lacking, if I'm not free, and I finally identify that I'm not free, and I see my mental, like I see it all in front of me, right? Because now I'm bringing what awareness, right, to
Mm-hmm.
the fact that wow, I'm the most reactive asshole on this planet. Shit. Like people were probably trying to tell me or whatever all along the way, but what? Because I'm covering up my shame, I'm just going to be in denial. I'm a narcy, really,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I don't even know. Narcissist doesn't even know they're a narcy.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even know what the word. They don't even know what it is because they're stuck in their own lie and their own thinking,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now I just have to be brought to an awareness. I have to know. I'm not free. Now I have an X. We service members, veterans, we need an
Yeah.
X.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
my X is I just want to be authentic. I want to be true to myself, right? And I want to be fucking free.
Yeah.
Like free. Like, well, no, like money doesn't have me by the balls anymore.
Yeah.
The shiny new car, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tool. Like, but all these things that I thought I was doing on the outside of me to bring myself to inner peace were causing me to be more in prison.
Mm-hmm.
So identify where you want to be. Do you want to be anxious? Right? Yeah, there is a bit of stuckness. We're stuck somewhere, right? But now, like being honest with ourselves, like I lied to myself constantly. We all do. So now, uh, I have to stop lying to myself. I got to be true to myself.
Yeah. It sounds like you're kind of saying changing your relationship to the narrative of these problems that we're having is it's identifying where you want to go, like what is
Yeah,
free, what is the X, and then it's like, okay, well, if I want to feel free, but right now I have anxiety, and the anxiety that I'm having is because I feel like I'm not making enough money, and I'm not making enough money because I can't, whatever the case is, we kind of put together,
right.
it's sort of like change what,
The
identifying
narrative.
where you're trying to go and then change that narrative,
Yeah,
that seems where a
yeah,
lot of it, and then
yeah,
everything's kind of falling into place. Is that kind of how you would, you
yeah. And I would
know?
say like
Yeah,
money's not the evil. It's my relationship to money,
yeah, of course, for
right?
sure. Right,
And
right.
because we don't really unconditionally love people or give people our energy
Oh,
because because we transact with it. Listen, if I'm caught in shame, I'm going to transact with you. I'm going to give you a certain amount of energy and love or whatever. Why? Because I want it. I
yeah,
want something in
right.
return,
Dude, that's so true. Wow.
right?
Yeah,
So
for
so
sure.
now here I am, caught in shame. my battery's at 50%, and I'm giving away energy to then get energy in return because I can't look inside.
Uh,
It all points back to that initial shame.
and then the story becomes like, man, I'm just so generous, I'm doing everything for everybody, and what I'm not getting
No
it
one
back,
sees me.
and no one sees it, doesn't everyone understand, like I feel so, and now you're caught up in this, like, dude, that's, yeah, 100%, man. That rings true to me for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, for my journey and meditation, journaling, that was another thing. And
Yeah,
I have someone coming at 2:30 or 2:25. So how do you want to
yeah,
do this?
yeah, cool. So we can wrap this, but Bert, maybe the last kind
We
of,
can do part two if you want.
dude, I
If
would
it
love to have you back on 100%. This would be so good. I love this conversation. This could definitely be a 3 hour show.
Yeah, I
But
could
let's
talk,
let's let's plug
like
NextPeak. I want to hear about NextPeak
yeah,
and maybe kind of what you're doing and how people can access and connect with you and
yeah. Yeah, so
support your organization.
part of this journey of well, where's the X, right? So this idea of next peak came into place. Is like,
Mm,
listen, achieving your next peak isn't another job. It isn't more ego and this, that, and the other. It's wholeness. I use the
right.
word wholeness. I want to become whole. I want to become
Yeah.
authentic, right?
Yeah, dude.
And so that's right, that peak. But what I was missing at the beginning of all this, what I was really missing, right, is one, I was missing faith, right? I wasn't even aware that I was suffering, right? I was caught in the valley of despair. I call it the valley of despair,
Yeah.
right? When you're down in the, it's smoggy and you don't even realize, right? You don't even realize you're in it. You're of it, right? So it's just part of who you are. And I think, and I say this analogy of the shiny helicopter that we have been taking to the peak, right? Called psychedelics,
Hmm.
which I think, I'm not against it. I think it's a powerful tool, right? I've
Hmm.
experienced, I've died, and I believe that you only have to die so many times, right, before you find, like, okay, I get it,
Yeah.
yeah, right. So, but we go into contract and we get on the helicopter and someone pays even the money for us to go. We have no skin in the game, right? We
Yeah.
were told loosely by some other guy that came back from a psychedelic retreat, like, wow, like, everyone's got to go down there because they're bright eyed and they're open finally for the
Hmm.
first time in their lives.
Hmm.
And so you go down there and you go on the helicopter and you take the ride all the way up, and every thread in your body is like, this is where I belong. Like, pilot, let me off this helicopter. Like that helipad right there, these people dancing. That's where I belong. And he's gonna look at you and say, hey, player, you can get off right now. It's just one step. And you look down, you're like, fuck no.
It's a big step.
It's a big step.
Yeah.
It's a huge fucking step.
Oh,
But what are you missing? You're missing faith.
yeah.
That is your reality. That's who
Uh,
you are. That's
for
your
sure.
God-given right.
For
But
sure.
then you have to fly back down in the valley of despair, and you just gotta start hiking your way up.
Yeah.
Right? You gotta start climbing. One step in front of there, and the more shit you let go of, the more constructs that you've developed
Mm.
to protect yourself from the shame that you held on to, right? You start to become a little bit more free. And everyone, like I say, like there's as many paths to that space. There are stars in the universe? Like, your path is your
Yeah.
path, my path is my path. I'm
Right.
not going to judge your path, Jordan, but at some point in this, our paths are going to cross, and they did
Mm.
today,
Hmm.
right? So now
Yeah.
our paths cross, right? Now our universe is aligned for that moment, right? And now because we're doing this work, right, we're open to the possibility that, hey, maybe you have something to offer me, and maybe I have something to offer you, right?
Hmm.
So now I'm reaching my hand out to you, right, on your journey, because we come in contact, and then we start journeying together, and there might be a day where you're reaching your hand out to me,
Hmm.
and we're empowering each other. So Next Peak, right? We started in 2020. It was based on therapy and peer support for the guys that were going down to Mexico and doing psychedelics.
Hmm.
I was seeing them come back just like wow, and then 8 weeks later they were worse off.
Hmm.
I was like, well, so we started doing really high quality trauma therapy for those that were open to it, right?
Right.
And because of where they were coming out, it was available, right? They were
Right.
open, so they started their lives starting transforming. But we added a component to that was, I thought, really really powerful. We added peer support. So
Yeah.
guys that were on their journey,
Love
right? They're
that.
climbing. They were, you know, they had we had an opportunity to intersect with a guy, right? Like a little bit faster, right? We had an opportunity to intersect. So now peer support, right, became, we have peer support and we have therapy. Now the healing was actually happening through peer support.
Totally.
That
And it goes
release of
back to what you were
shame.
saying with with, as a warrior, like we want to help other people. We want to
Yeah,
be there
but
for our
warriors
team.
heal, brother. Warriors heal warriors.
Yeah.
We heal each other. No one's
Right.
gonna heal. No one's gonna understand what we went through
Right.
except us. And we will go back into the line of fire. I will
Hmm.
go back into the line of fire to grab you. I will sacrifice my life, but yet at the same time, I'm only trauma bonded with you,
Mm.
and I'll save you. But now, what we're creating and cultivating through this nonprofit, right? Through community, right? Was what we morphed into, is authentic,
Love
loving
that.
connections and bonds with each other, right? Intimate, intimate.
Yeah.
I love you, brother. I got you. I will hold space for you. I'm not going to judge you. Safety. Listen, I didn't grow up in a safe house. So where am I going to actually start to heal? I'm going to heal where it's safe.
Yeah.
I don't go around expressing vulnerability to random strangers, right? Well, I'm kind of doing that maybe through this. I don't know, right? But
Point
it doesn't
taken.
matter.
Point taken.
I don't care. I don't care, right? It's like, listen, like we need a space to actually verbalize. I need to say this out loud.
Yeah.
I need to talk about this. I need to grieve. I need space to grieve.
Hmm.
I never had a chance to grieve the initial shame, and I need to give it back. I need to have dialogue with that. So now what, it's all universe, right? I know that I'm in alignment with what I'm supposed to, my calling and my purpose, right? So
Hmm.
Next Peak really has morphed into empowering veterans and their families, and we do first responders too, but that's what we're growing to empowering them to return to wholeness, because we were once whole when we were little, nothing but pure love,
Hmm.
right? Let that 5-year-old's whole. Return back to wholeness through community and connection. Listen, what this, not the pills, it's not the mert, it's not all these things that we have. It's not the psychedelics that's going
Yeah.
to save your life. I promise you. What we need is at least one, hopefully three, authentic, loving connections with other warriors.
Hmm.
Because if I have a bad day now, Jordan, I have so many men and now women that I can call and say, I'm struggling today. Brother, I got you. And I have an ability then to really experience, let feelings get processed and actually cry.
Yeah.
And he's just going to hold space and love on me. That's fucking intimate.
Totally.
And it's so important. And I have so many brothers, right? I'll end it with this. I have so many brothers that are taking their own lives, that I've talked to guys that interacted with them days before, and they said, he seemed like he was just normal old
Hmm.
Bobby. Why then did he take his own life? Because he didn't have a safe place to grieve. He was never granted that opportunity, and it's not our fault, right? I mean, look, we're trauma bonded, so it's that authentic connection. So we really are growing a community. We're above the VFW in Solana Beach. It wasn't a bar, right? I don't know how, again, I never imagined in a million years that I'd be part of a VFW. So we have this golden opportunity. I call it Project Restore Hope. It's an initiative that we started to change this into a safe house, so that men and women, right, that serve their nation can actually come in. Like, and what's going to draw someone in, right? I have to be creative on creating value. Right now,
Hmm.
the value for a VFW is like, you're going to get cheap drinks, and you're going to get to hang out in a very dark, dingy place where there's a bunch of dead people hanging on the walls.
Sign me up, man. Don't
I'm
tempt me with a
in.
good time.
Like, no tail to chase there. No, like, no, it's just
Right.
a bunch of Vietnam guys. I love them, right? But they're killing themselves with alcohol, and I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now we have this opportunity to create a safe place, right? The values is we're remodeling this place here in Solana
Wow.
Beach. It's gonna feel like a second home. We're not gonna memorialize anyone on the inside. We're not gonna have old stories on the walls. It's gonna feel like a house.
I love
We're gonna have
that.
a coffee bar here to serve the public. Why is that important? Because I want the public to come up, and it'll be a veteran-owned coffee shop, right? That to come
Dude.
up, buy their coffee, and hear some of our stories. Now they see what we're doing. Also, the shiny objects was like when I'm stuck in ego, I need a bunch of shiny objects to get me in the door, right? We're gonna have cold plunges. Everyone, that's the rage. It's like I'm gonna go sit in a freaking ice bath, right? And then I'm gonna do, the sauna, red light therapy, right? Like anything and everything I can get in here that is holistic in nature,
Yeah,
right?
dude.
That they're all tools, right? They're all powerful tools. Like yes, red light therapy is fucking good for you, right? We
Yeah.
know that, but
Right. Right.
they're damn expensive, and if I'm part of a studio that's doing it, it's going to cost me a lot of money.
Right.
So
Right.
now I think that's what's going to create the value. Now someone comes in the door, right? And over time, they may or may not have an experience with someone that's doing their work
Right.
that understands that the red X is, I just want to be free. I just want to be free. Yeah, hey, let's have a real talk about that.
Wow.
So peer support turned into community. Community, right now we're forging authentic, loving connections with one another. That's what's gonna, in my opinion, gonna help with veteran suicide.
Totally.
Because brother, we save each other. We will reach our hand out for each other. No one else is going to do this for us. We have to do it for ourselves. Restore. This is going to be a rebrand of, the VFW at large doesn't even know this. This is going to be a
That's
total rebrand.
such a good idea, dude. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God. Like,
Like again, not my idea. Like it was, I'm just the vessel. I'm just here and putting it in
love
place,
that.
right? So a rebrand, right? This will be the first Restore Hope VFW, where we're actually restoring hope not only into the VFW, going back to the original mission and why they were started in the first place, because they weren't started to be social gatherings. They started because they had no VA. And these guys were coming back from the Spanish-American War throttled. And so what did
Interesting.
they do? Like they came together in community and they started healing each other.
Right. Right.
And on
Wow.
top of that, they created the VA system, which now 125 years later is no fault of their own, right? Is failing us.
Yeah. Right.
It's no fault of their own. There's no blame game here, right? They're just not aware of why we're suffering. And they're shoving. I had 6 different pills I was on, and I was
Yeah.
sicker. I'm not advocating to get off your med. Like, hey man, get off your
Sure.
meds. No, you got to work your way off that, right? I don't take any meds. 0. I sleep like a baby. I have so much energy. I don't drink coffee for God's sakes. And you think I'm on fucking crack right now? I'm not. This is natural. We are energy bodies. My battery's at 100% now. And I'll end it with this. Now, when I transact, I don't transact because I want anything in return. I don't need it. I don't need it. Now it's authentic.
It's very powerful.
That's authentic.
Yeah, dude.
We got to stop transacting. We got to care for each other. We got to, I'm not reaching my hand out to you because it's going to make me taller or bigger or better. Look at me. Hey guys, look at me. I'm helping people. No. Hey, I have it to give. I have it in reserves.
Yeah, you have it in reserves. That's kind of
but some days I don't. And guess what? You're gonna be like, hey brother, I see you're what's going on? And you're gonna reach out. Yeah. That's what we need. That's what this is.
That's great. I love that, dude. That was such an amazing mission that you guys are working on with NextPeak. I can't wait to check out the VFW when it's and I would love to be a part of it in some way, shape, or form. Like, please,
I'll have you join. You can join the first Restore VFW. The idea is we're gonna reach our capacity really fast here. I think we're gonna reach our capacity before the remodel's done.
Probably.
And the grand opening is going to be a bunch of veterans that are just like, okay. And then the VFW large can say, what the fuck are you guys doing? You're not
Yeah.
serving alcohol. No, I'm just
Yeah.
seeing, you know what when I'm serving? What we are serving is hope for each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm serving hope. All we need is a tiny little seed of hope, right? The guy in the mask, like, hey, like, I'm going to die. Yeah, you'll die. Or, hey, listen, someone gave me a seed of hope.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give it to you, right?
Hmm.
I got to go.
That's good. Guy, let's do this again. Let's connect
I love it.
offline as well. I'll send you a thank you. Thank you so much for your time. This has been the Mind Body Mushroom. Guy McDermott with nextpeak.org. Check him out. Give him a follow. I'll throw a bunch of stuff in the show notes and we'll do a part 2 sometime.
Yeah, I love, brother. Hey,
Yeah, you as well.
thank you. It was an honor, right, to be on this show. I am really honored, humbled.
Thank you for sharing your story, man. I really appreciate you. All
Right
right.
on, man.
Catch you later,
Bye now.
man. Bye.